You don't get to hide things in my neighborhood. I have every right to enter any property in this community, and this, Monica Bradford waved what looked like a key to my front door, the metal catching afternoon sunlight like a threat. This gives me the authority I need. You will cooperate with my inspection, Dr. Hayes, or you will regret moving to Willow Ridge. She screamed this at me through my living room window at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, wearing a hot pink blazer that matched her aggressive entitlement perfectly. I'm Dr. Sarah Hayes, and I spent 12 years as a federal prosecutor specializing in abuse of power cases, which means I know exactly two things: how to document evidence that destroys careers, and how to recognize when someone's about to commit a crime they can't walk back from. Monica Bradford was about to make the biggest mistake of her life. And I was going to let her, because sometimes justice requires patience, documentation, and letting criminals build their own prison, one violation at a time. A silver Mercedes SUV blocked my driveway at 2:47 p.m. Monica Bradford stepped out, hot pink blazer crisp over white slacks, heels clicking hard on pavement. She carried an oversized clipboard and something metallic catching sunlight. A key. My key. I'd changed every lock in this house 3 weeks ago when escrow closed. Standard protocol after 12 years prosecuting organized crime cases where defendants occasionally made threats. So where the hell had she gotten that key? And why did she think waving it at me like a weapon was going to work? I opened my front door before she could reach the porch, keeping my expression neutral, despite already cataloging evidence the way federal prosecutors do automatically. Dr. Hayes. Her voice carried that sharp edge of manufactured authority. I'm Monica Bradford, HOA president of Willow Ridge Estates. I need immediate access to your home to conduct a compliance inspection. I kept my tone level, almost friendly. Miss Bradford, I'd be happy to discuss any concerns, but I'll need that request in writing with at least 72 hours notice as specified in the community covenants. Her eyes narrowed, fingers tightening visibly around both the clipboard and that key. The key bothered me more than her entitled attitude. It represented access she shouldn't have, intentions she was barely bothering to hide. I don't need an appointment, Monica said, voice rising into a register that probably worked on people who didn't understand power dynamics. I've managed this community for 9 years, and every homeowner understands that we maintain standards here. Standards that you seem to think don't apply to you just because you have some fancy law degree. She took a step closer, hot pink blazer vivid against my neutral gray siding. If you refuse to cooperate, I'll have no choice but to begin fining you $750 per week until you comply with community regulations. The threat hung between us. I recognized the calculation in her eyes. She expected capitulation, apology, submission. That's what had worked before. I appreciate your dedication to the community, I said calmly. But before any inspection, I'll need to see the specific covenant section authorizing warrantless entry into private residences. I reviewed all HOA documents before purchasing, and I don't recall any such provision. Monica's face flushed dark red. Are you calling me a liar? The defensive snap came fast, revealing more than she intended. People who abuse power always react the same way when challenged immediate aggression, masking legal uncertainty. I'm asking for documentation. Standard legal procedure for any compliance matter. She stared at me, recalculating, realizing her intimidation tactics weren't working on a federal prosecutor who'd faced down mob attorneys and corrupt officials. Fine, she said finally, tone crystallizing into something colder. You'll receive official notice, but understand this. Dr. Hayes, I take community standards very seriously. Residents who don't cooperate find life here very difficult. It wasn't quite a direct threat, but close enough. In federal court, I'd successfully argued that less explicit language constituted witness intimidation. She turned sharply, hot pink blazer flaring as she spun toward her Mercedes. But not before glancing at the key in her hand one more time, her expression calculating, predatory. That glance told me everything. She'd planned to use it today. The visit, The clipboard, the manufactured inspection authority, all theater designed to justify letting herself into my home. I watched her drive away and checked my watch. 3:14 p.m. Time to start building the file. Inside, I pulled the HOA covenant. 73 pages. Section 12. Architectural modifications. Section 13. Landscaping. No section granting inspection rights. Monica had invented her authority. I created a folder, Bradford v. Hayes, Evidence. 16 4K cameras covered my property. I pulled footage 4 angles, Monica's hot pink blazer, that key held up deliberately. Exported with metadata. Backed up 3 times. My phone buzzed. Monica had posted 7 minutes after leaving. Concerned about new residents refusing compliance inspections. Some people think rules don't apply to them. 43 comments supporting her. A private message appeared from David Chin 3 houses down. Be careful. She did this to the family before you. Harassed them 8 months until they sold at a loss. I created a timeline. Day 1, Bradford attempts intimidation with unauthorized key. Pattern documented. Escalation expected. By evening, I had physical binders, digital backups, legal documentation. I drafted an email to the HOA management company requesting clarification, attached the official covenant, sent with read receipt. Monica would escalate. She always did. The emergency HOA meeting notice arrived in my mailbox Monday afternoon, 36 hours before the scheduled gathering. I pulled it out and photographed the envelope, noting the postmark, mailed Sunday evening. Monica had called this meeting within hours of our confrontation, violating the covenant's 72-hour requirement. But I suspected that procedural detail wouldn't matter to most residents. They'd show up because Monica told them to. Monday evening, I arrived at the community center 10 minutes early and took a seat in the back row. The room filled quickly, more residents than I'd seen at any gathering in my 3 weeks here. Monica stood at the front wearing another hot pink blazer, this one with pearl buttons that caught the fluorescent light. She carried her oversized clipboard and wore that same expression of righteous authority she displayed at my door. She didn't acknowledge me directly, but I caught her eyes flicking toward my seat twice before calling the meeting to order. She knew I was there. She wanted me to know she knew. "Thank you all for coming on short notice," Monica began, voice carrying practiced concern mixed with authority. "We have a situation that affects our entire community's property values and quality of life. As you know, I take my responsibility as HOA president very seriously. And when I see standards slipping, I have to act." She clicked a remote. A projector screen lit up with photographs of my house, taken from the street, showing the front landscaping and garage door. She'd highlighted sections with red digital markers as if the images proved violations. "This property?" Monica continued, not saying my name but making it obvious, shows multiple code violations. Unapproved paint color on the mailbox post, landscaping stones exceeding permitted size. And when I attempted a routine compliance inspection, the owner refused access and became confrontational. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I stayed quiet, watching faces. Some looked concerned. Others seemed uncomfortable with the public call-out. A few, including David Chin, 3 rows ahead, looked distinctly skeptical. Monica pressed on, sensing momentum. "I'm proposing we enforce our standards with immediate fines of $750 per week until full compliance is achieved. This sends a clear message that no one is above our community rules." I raised my hand. Monica's expression hardened, but she couldn't ignore me without looking petty. "Yes?" I stood, keeping my voice calm and factual. "I'd like to see documentation showing that mailbox posts have color restrictions." The covenant I reviewed specifies only that mailboxes must be maintained in good condition. I'd also appreciate seeing the section granting HOA presidents authority to conduct warrantless inspections of private person homes. The room went quiet. Monica's face flushed, and I watched her knuckles whiten on the remote. "The covenant is clear on community standards," she said, not actually answering either question. "If you'd like to review it, I can provide a copy. I have the Travis County filed version," I replied evenly. "It doesn't contain any provision for warrantless property entry. It also requires 72 hours notice for emergency meetings, not 36. I'm not refusing cooperation, Miss Bradford. I'm asking for proper legal procedure." The flush on Monica's face deepened to angry red. Several residents pulled out phones, probably checking their own covenant copies. David Chen turned in his seat and gave me a small nod of approval. But Monica recovered quickly, her voice hardening into steel. "This is exactly the kind of obstruction I'm talking about. We can debate procedural details all night, or we can protect our property values. I'm calling for a vote." The vote went 5-1 in favor of the fines. Only Rachel Martinez, an accountant who lived on the corner, abstained. I watched her carefully as the others raised their hands. She didn't look at Monica, didn't look at me, just stared straight ahead with an expression I recognized from prosecuting cases. Someone who'd been through this before and knew better than to make herself a target? After the meeting adjourned, residents filed out quickly, most avoiding eye contact with me. But Rachel lingered by the door, and when I passed, she spoke quietly, without turning her head. She did the same thing to me 2 years ago. Made my life hell for 4 months until I just gave in and paid fines I didn't owe. Be careful. She doesn't stop. I thanked her and headed to my car, but not before noticing Monica standing near her Mercedes, phone pressed to her ear, watching me leave. Her expression promised escalation. I'd challenged her publicly, made her look incompetent in front of the community she'd controlled for 9 years. People like Monica didn't forgive that kind of humiliation. They retaliated. By Tuesday morning, Monica had posted 4 times. My house with caption about declining standards, vague post about difficult residents who think education makes them special, photo of the meeting. When one person's arrogance threatens the whole neighborhood, a poll about strict enforcement against non-compliant homeowners, I screenshotted everything, saved metadata, cross-referenced with my timeline. Pattern of behavior, check. Public defamation, check. Coordinated harassment, in progress. Thursday brought certified mail from Hartwell and Associates demanding full compliance within 10 days or face legal action. I researched them small debt collection practice, no HOA expertise. My response cited Texas Property Code section 209.0051, attached the county filed covenant, included photos proving my mailbox matched 12 others, noted the landscaping stones were identical to Monica's own yard. Final paragraph. As a federal prosecutor with 12 years experience in abuse of power cases, I'm well versed in legal standards governing HOA authority. Your client's actions appear to constitute harassment and potential criminal trespass. I strongly recommend reviewing actual legal authority before proceeding with threats that could expose both your client and your firm to civil liability. Sent certified mail, copied all board members. Friday afternoon, David Chen stopped by. Monica called yesterday asking if I'd seen you doing anything suspicious. Specifically asked about late-night activity, unusual visitors, anything suggesting illegal activity. Monica was fishing for ammunition. What did you tell her? I told her, you keep normal hours and mind your business. Then I mentioned that making unfounded accusations could open her to defamation liability. He paused. You need to understand, she did this to the Johnsons who lived here before. Harassed them 8 months until they sold at $40,000 loss. She's done it to Rachel, at least 4 other families. She doesn't stop. She escalates until people break. That evening, I reviewed security footage from the past week. At 23:17 Wednesday night, Monica's Mercedes parked 3 houses down, engine off, lights dark. She sat 19 minutes watching my house. At 23:28, she pulled out that key, examined it under streetlight, put it away, drove off. I exported the footage. Subject conducting surveillance. Possesses unauthorized key. Intent concerning. 1 week since first confrontation. documentation of intimidation, defamation, procedural violations, manufactured threats, surveillance. Monica thought she was applying pressure. She was building my case. Sunday morning, 4 miles into my run, David flagged me down. He glanced around, lowered his voice. Last night around 11:30, I saw Monica at your front door. She had a key, was trying it in your lock. How long? 3-4 minutes. Tried the front door, walked around back, came back looking frustrated, stared at your cameras, then left. I finished my run fast. Security footage confirmed everything. At 23:23, Monica's Mercedes appeared, lights off. At 23:27, she approached my front door, pulled out a key ring. 4K footage captured every detail. Her face, her hot pink blazer catching ambient light, that key. She tried the key. The smart lock didn't budge. Frustration flickered, then she looked up at the camera, expression cold. She walked around back, tested windows and doors, returned to the front. At 23:31, she stood directly in front of my camera, staring up, calculating. Then she left. 9 minutes of documented attempted criminal trespass. I exported with full metadata, backed up to 3 cloud locations. This crossed from unethical into criminal. Monday morning, I called the property management company. After 4 transfers, yes, we have record of previous homeowners providing a spare key to Miss Bradford in 2021. Emergency access for fire or flood. The key should have been returned when the house sold, but Texas law was explicit. HOAs have no right to possess keys without current owner consent. Using a key to attempt entry without consent was criminal trespass under Penal Code Section 30.05. I spent 3 hours calling residents. First confirmed immediately. She insisted I give her a key my first month, said it was policy. She let herself in when I was at work once checking for a water leak. There was no leak. I changed locks, and she made my life hell. 2 months. Second, she has keys to at least 6 houses, collected them, claiming it was standard. Third, she came in while I was on vacation. Rearranged things to make sure the house looked occupied. Pattern of unauthorized access, multiple victims, systematic violation of privacy. Tuesday evening, I emailed the entire board. Formal notice regarding unauthorized key possession and attempted criminal trespass. Laid out facts. Never authorized key possession. Texas law doesn't grant such rights. All locks changed. Video evidence of attempted unauthorized entry. I didn't name Monica. Everyone knew. Response came within 90 minutes from Rachel Martinez. Dr. Hayes, several of us have concerns about recent management practices. Would you meet privately to discuss documentation? A crack in Monica's power. We met Thursday. Rachel reviewed my evidence for an hour, expression growing grimmer. This is worse than I thought. Unauthorized keys, attempting to enter homes, pattern with previous residents. If this came out, the HOA faces serious liability. Not to mention what Monica faces criminally. She promised to raise issues at the next meeting, suggested consulting an attorney. Wednesday night at 22:51, another alert. Someone at my front door, not knocking. Monica, no key this time, just standing there, staring at the door, the lock, the camera, her hot pink blazer, unmistakable, in infrared. After 2 minutes 17 seconds, she turned and walked away. She was studying, planning, looking for a different angle. Whatever came next would be aggressive enough to either break me or give me the evidence I needed to end her permanently. Friday morning, 3 missed calls, 7 texts from David. Sarah, Monica posted something about you. It's bad. I opened the community group. Monica had posted at 6:47 a.m. After much consideration for our community's safety, I must share information about Dr. Sarah Hayes, 2847 Magnolia Drive. She has been extremely hostile toward community oversight, refused all safety inspections, installed excessive surveillance, and according to multiple neighbors, keeps irregular hours with unknown visitors at odd times. As a community, we must protect each other. I've reported concerns to local authorities and strongly encourage all residents to remain vigilant. Number community safety. 127 comments in 2 hours. Most supportive of Monica. Dozens calling me suspicious, aggressive, exactly the kind of person who doesn't belong here. 3 suggested I was hiding something. 5 asked if I was under. 1 suggested the neighborhood should take action. My hands shook reading through comments. Character assassination. Defamation. Designed to isolate me, make life unbearable, force me to sell like the Johnsons. I called David. I'm so sorry, Sarah. She's crossed a line. But just as many are believing it, the damage is done. Can we get it taken down? I tried flagging it. Platform says it doesn't violate terms. It's vague enough protected. After we hung up, I stared at my phone, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Genuine fear that I was going to lose. Monica had turned the entire neighborhood against me, poisoned the well. People believed her narrative, and she'd mentioned reporting to local authorities. False police reports could trigger investigations. Even groundless accusations could damage my professional reputation irreparably. Federal prosecutors lose security clearances over unfounded allegations. I could lose everything, not because I'd done anything wrong, but because Monica weaponized gossip. My evidence files felt suddenly inadequate. What good was documentation against a mob convinced you were dangerous? My phone rang, Austin, area code I didn't recognize. Dr. Hayes? Detective Jennifer Walsh, Travis County Sheriff's Office. We received a report of concern about your residence. We'd like to talk about allegations that have been made. My heart sank. Monica had done it. Called law enforcement with false reports. Detective Walsh? I'd be happy to talk. But I want to be clear, whatever allegations you received are part of documented harassment by my HOA president. I have extensive evidence if you'd like to review it. Pause. That's actually exactly what I'd like to discuss. Can you come to the station Monday morning? After we hung up, I sat surrounded by evidence folders, feeling utterly alone. Monica had won. Turned law enforcement and the entire community against me. Even if I eventually proved everything, the damage was done. Reputation destroyed. Neighbors thought I was dangerous. Police investigating me. I looked at my house, the peaceful retreat I'd carefully chosen after retiring from federal prosecution, and I seriously considered giving up, selling, leaving. Letting Monica Bradford win, just like the Johnsons had, just like Rachel almost did, just like every victim ground down by relentless harassment. Maybe some battles weren't worth fighting. Maybe Monica's power was simply too entrenched. I closed my laptop, walked to my kitchen, stood staring out at the neighborhood that had turned against me in 48 hours. For the first time since this started, I genuinely didn't know if I could win. Sunday morning, making coffee, my phone rang. Detective Walsh. Dr. Hayes, I wanted to follow up before Monday. I did preliminary research on allegations Miss Bradford made Friday morning. My stomach tightened. Here came the formal investigation that would destroy my career. Your name flagged in our system. Not as a person of concern, as a federal prosecutor with 12 years exemplary service and active security clearances. The allegations Miss Bradford made, they don't match your profile. I gripped the phone. What exactly did she tell you? She claimed you were operating a suspicious business from your residence, unusual traffic at odd hours, possible drug-related activity, that you'd been aggressive and hostile when she attempted legitimate HOA inspections. Walsh paused. Dr. Hayes, I've been doing this 15 years. When someone with your background is accused of running drugs, my first instinct is someone's lying. Would you share documentation you mentioned about harassment? The reversal was so sudden I couldn't process it. Yes, I have extensive documentation. Video evidence, witness statements, timeline, everything. Send it over. Between you and me, This sounds like harassment of a law enforcement professional. We take that seriously. I'll see you Monday, but I think this meeting will be very different from what Miss Bradford was expecting. I spent 3 hours compiling the most comprehensive evidence package I'd ever created. Every video, every timeline entry, every witness statement, every social media screenshot, everything showing Monica's 9-year pattern, 6 sections, unauthorized key possession and attempted trespass, pattern of harassment, defamation and social media, abuse of HOA authority, false reports to law enforcement. Subject background. 127 pages with exhibits. More thorough than most federal prosecution files. I sent it Sunday evening. Detective Walsh, attached, please find complete documentation of a 9-year pattern of abuse by Monica Bradford. As you'll see, her report appears to be the latest escalation in systematic harassment of residents who resist her authority. Monday, 9:45 a.m. I arrived at the Travis County Sheriff's Office carrying 3 physical binders and a USB drive. Detective Walsh and another investigator were waiting in an interview room. The way they'd arranged the space recording equipment visible, official forms laid out, told me this was being treated seriously. Walsh stood and extended her hand. Doctor. Hayes, appreciate you coming in. Detective Masters and I reviewed your evidence package over the weekend. We have some questions, then we'll take your formal statement. The next hour played out like dozens of federal witness interviews I'd participated in from the other side. They walked through the timeline methodically, asking me to confirm dates, describe incidents in my own words, verify evidence, authenticity. Walsh focused on the 911 call specifically. Miss Bradford told dispatch there were chemical odors, possible drugs or explosives, and that you'd been uncooperative with safety inspections. Can you address each of those claims? I did, walking them through my background, 12 years, federal prosecution, active security clearances, the fact that my house was completely empty during the alleged incident, firefighters testing that found absolutely nothing. Detective Masters leaned back, studying me with the assessment of someone who'd spent decades reading people. Your background came back interesting, Dr. Hayes. 12 years DOJ prosecution, high-level security clearances, expert witness testimony in federal cases. He paused. Miss Bradford called 911, claiming you might be running a drug operation. Anyone with access to law enforcement databases could see in 30 seconds that claim was absurd. Which means either she didn't bother to check, or she knew it was false and called anyway. Based on her pattern of behavior, I said carefully, I believe she knew she couldn't get access to my property through legitimate means, so she manufactured an emergency to force entry using police as her tool. The 911 call wasn't about genuine concern, it was about weaponizing emergency services to violate my property rights. Walsh nodded slowly, making notes. That's consistent with what we're seeing in the evidence, and this pattern you've documented with other residents, we're going to need to interview them as well. If Miss Bradford has been systematically abusing her HOA position to harass multiple people, that strengthens the case significantly. They took my formal statement, recorded and transcribed, covering everything from Monica's first appearance with the unauthorized key through the false 911 call and its aftermath. When we finished, Masters closed his notebook and looked at me directly. Dr. Hayes, I'm going to be frank with you. This is one of the clearest cases of false emergency reporting I've handled. The evidence quality is exceptional, honestly better than what most of our own detectives produce. I'm recommending to the Commonwealth Attorney that we pursue charges. Given everything you've provided, I expect they'll agree. The words hung in the air for a moment. Arrest, warrant, criminal charges. This was the consequence I'd been building toward, the accountability that came from letting someone document their own crimes in high definition. What's the timeline? I asked. Walsh answered. Prosecutor review usually takes a few days. If they greenlight it, a magistrate has to sign the warrant. I'd estimate by end of week, we'll know for sure. Once the warrant is issued, we'll coordinate with Miss Bradford's attorney if she has one, or we'll execute it directly. This isn't a felony, so she won't be held without bail, but she will be arrested, processed, and arraigned. I thanked them and left the station with a strange sense of calm settling over me. The machinery of justice was in motion now, operating exactly as it was designed, methodically, fairly, based on evidence rather than emotion. I'd done everything I could do. The rest was up to the system I'd spent 12 years serving. Wednesday morning, Walsh called, "Search warrant executed on Miss Bradford's residence this morning." We recovered 16 keys labeled with resident addresses, including one for 2847 Magnolia Drive. She kept files on multiple residents documenting movements, activities, personal information. The DA reviewed everything and agreed to pursue charges. Thursday, formal notification arrived. Travis County DA was filing charges: criminal trespass class, a misdemeanor; harassment, class B, misdemeanor; false report to law enforcement, class B, misdemeanor; criminal defamation, class A, misdemeanor. Combined, up to 3 years if convicted on all counts. Friday at 3:47 p.m., sirens. 2 sheriff's cars pulling up to Monica's house. My cameras captured everything. Detective Walsh approaching Monica's door. Monica answering, hot pink blazer expression shifting from annoyed to shocked. The arrest happened on her front lawn. Walsh professional and calm. Monica furious, screaming about being HOA president, demanding they check her files, insisting she had authority. Walsh read Miranda rights, applied handcuffs, walked her to the patrol car while neighbors watched. As the car pulled away, I saw Monica's face in the rear window, calculating expression stripped of all power. The woman who terrorized Willow Ridge 9 years was finally facing consequences she couldn't manipulate away. I saved the footage, added final timeline entry. Day 23, subject arrested, charged with multiple criminal counts, pattern documented and submitted to law enforcement. Justice in progress. 3 months after Monica's arrest, I sat on my front porch watching the neighborhood come back to life in ways David Chen described as before Monica. Kids played in the street without parents hovering nervously about HOA violations. Neighbors actually talked to each other instead of avoiding eye contact. The HOA board held elections with real candidates running real campaigns. Rachel Martinez was elected president on a platform of transparency and accountability. Her first board meeting drew 195 households, highest attendance in Willow Ridge history. "I want to start," Rachel said, standing at the front in a simple blue cardigan, no hot pink blazers in sight, by acknowledging that the board failed in its oversight responsibilities. "We allowed procedural violations, unauthorized actions, and harassment to continue unchecked. That stops now." She outlined reforms: immediate review of all HOA actions from the past 3 years, independent audit of finances, revision of bylaws to include proper checks on presidential authority, establishment of a resident complaint process with real teeth. Then she turned toward where I sat in the back row. "Dr. Hayes, the board would like to extend a formal apology for the treatment you received. You were right about the procedural violations, right about the covenant restrictions, and right to demand accountability. We also recognize that your documentation has given us the roadmap to fix systemic problems." The room broke into applause. David caught my eye and nodded with clear approval. After the meeting, a dozen residents approached to shake hands, apologize for not supporting me earlier, or simply say thank you for not backing down. One conversation stood out, a woman I'd never met before who introduced herself as Mrs. Johnson. "We lived in your house before you bought it," she explained, voice shaking slightly. "Monica harassed us for 8 months, made our lives so miserable that we sold at a $40,000 loss just to escape. When we heard she was actually arrested, that she finally faced consequences." She paused, composing herself. My husband cried. Not from happiness exactly, but from relief that someone finally stopped her. She took my hand. We couldn't fight back. We didn't have your expertise or resources, but you did. And you didn't just protect yourself, you protected everyone who comes after. That means more than you probably realize. Monica herself accepted a plea deal in February. Her attorney, a tired-looking public defender who'd probably advised her to take it, stood beside her in court as she entered guilty pleas to criminal trespass and false reporting to law enforcement. The judge, a woman in her 60 seconds who'd clearly reviewed the evidence package, looked down from the bench with an expression of barely contained disgust. "Miss Bradford, you held a position of trust in your community. You abused that position to harass residents, violate their privacy, and ultimately weaponize emergency services for personal vendettas. This behavior is unconscionable." Sentence: 6 months jail time suspended contingent on 2 years probation, $5,000 in fines, 300 hours community service, and permanent ban from holding any HOA position. Plus a no-contact order preventing her from approaching me or my property. She also agreed to surrender all keys she'd collected, 16 in total, each labeled with a resident's address. Detective Walsh personally oversaw their destruction, crushing them one by one in a vise at the station. The civil lawsuit followed naturally. My attorney sent the HOA's insurance company my evidence package, and they settled within a week. $125,000 from the policy, public apology posted on the HOA website, complete governance reform documented in writing. Monica's personal contribution took longer to negotiate. Her attorney tried arguing she had limited assets, but my attorney pointed out that her house was worth $780,000 and she'd be selling it anyway. Eventually, she agreed to $45,000 and a written apology admitting her actions were inappropriate, illegal, and violated Dr. Hayes' rights under Texas property law. The public apology was posted where every resident could read it. The Willow Ridge HOA acknowledges that former President Monica Bradford engaged in systematic harassment, unauthorized property access, defamation, and abuse of authority against resident Dr. Sarah Hayes and other homeowners. We apologize unreservedly to Dr. Hayes and all affected residents. Comprehensive governance reforms have been implemented to ensure such abuse never occurs again. 6 weeks after her sentencing, a for sale sign appeared in Monica's front yard. David told me over coffee that she was moving to Florida to live with her sister. "She can't face anyone here anymore," he said, watching the real estate agent take photos of the property. "Everyone knows what she did. She lost all the power she'd spent 9 years building. The woman who ran this neighborhood like a personal dictatorship can't even go to the grocery store without people staring." I felt no satisfaction in Monica's humiliation that had never been the goal. I'd simply wanted the abuse to stop and accountability to be established. But I understood that consequences extended beyond what courts imposed. Reputation, standing, community position, those were currencies Monica had valued above everything else, and she'd lost all of them through her own choices. By July, the community transformed completely. The community center hosted its first genuine neighborhood barbecue in years. 50 families showed up, grills smoking, kids playing, music drifting through warm Texas air. David Chen raised a toast during the event, glass of lemonade held high, to neighbors who look out for each other instead of controlling each other. And to Sarah, who showed us that standing up to bullies works when you do it the right way, with evidence, with procedure, with refusal to be intimidated. The applause felt strange but validating. I'd never wanted to be a neighborhood hero. I just wanted to live in peace. But apparently defending yourself thoroughly and legally counted as leadership in a place that had forgotten what real community looked like. One evening in August, I sat on my porch watching the sunset paint the Texas sky in shades of orange and purple. A moving truck was parked at Monica's house, the final load being packed before the property transferred to new owners who had no idea what had happened here. Rachel Martinez walked over with iced tea and settled into the chair I kept out for neighborhood visits. "You know what the biggest change is?" she asked, watching kids ride bikes in the street. "People aren't afraid anymore. We used to see HOA notices and immediately worry about what we'd done wrong, what Monica would use against us. Now we actually read them, ask questions if something's unclear, and participate in meetings without fear of retaliation." She paused, watching the moving truck pull away. "You gave us that!" By refusing to be intimidated, by documenting everything properly, by trusting that the system would work if used correctly, you showed us there was a third option besides compliance and running away. I smiled. I just did what any federal prosecutor would do: document everything and let the evidence speak for itself. The real credit goes to Detective Walsh for taking it seriously, and to neighbors like you and David who were willing to come forward with your own experiences. Rachel shook her head. Don't minimize what you did. Most people would have either given up or retaliated with vandalism. You showed that using law and procedure to hold power accountable actually works. That's rare, especially these days. We sat in comfortable silence while the moving truck disappeared around the corner. The woman who'd terrorized Willow Ridge Estates for 9 years was finally, permanently gone. My phone buzzed with an email from the Texas State Real Estate Commission. They'd completed their investigation into HOA operations under Monica's tenure and found multiple violations of governance standards. Their report recommended probationary status for the organization and mandatory oversight for 2 years, another layer of accountability, another safeguard against future abuse. As the sun set completely and streetlights flickered on, I looked at my house, the home I'd almost had to fight constantly just to live in peacefully. The fence was finished, painted a color I'd chosen because I liked it. The garden I'd planted was thriving because I enjoyed it, not because any regulation demanded it. My security cameras still recorded everything, but now they felt like standard home protection rather than defensive necessities. Monica Bradford had taught me something valuable despite herself, that standing up to bullies with evidence and procedure wasn't just effective, it was essential. Because the only thing that stopped people from abusing power was facing real consequences when they did. And now, finally, justice hadn't just been served. It had been witnessed, documented, and permanently recorded in court files, criminal databases, and community memory. That was accountability at its most complete. Not revenge, not retaliation, but systematic dismantling of abuse through the proper application of law and evidence. 6 months after moving to Willow Ridge, I finally felt like I was home. Not because the neighborhood was perfect, but because it had learned that power without accountability always becomes abuse, and that ordinary people pushing back with evidence and procedure could actually win. That lesson was worth more than any settlement check. It was the foundation of a real community, one where neighbors protected each other instead of controlling each other, and that was worth fighting for. The sound of kids playing in the street, neighbors calling greetings to each other, the ordinary peaceful rhythm of suburban life, these were the real victories. These were what justice looked like when it worked properly. Monica Bradford's hot pink blazer and unauthorized keys were gone forever, replaced by transparent governance and actual community. And that made every documented moment, every evidence file, every legal citation completely worth it. Justice wasn't about emotion. It was about evidence, procedure, and the patient refusal to let bullies win. That was the lesson Willow Ridge had learned, and it was a lesson that would protect every resident who came after.